You're welcome to Towards a Greater Nigeria, and we're bringing you a recap of all the proceedings and the goings-on that took place during the Africa Regional Conference, Habitat 3. In response to your request, we've been inundated with requests from you out there telling us that you want to see a recap, for those of you that even missed some of the episodes that we showed. And so relax, sit back. It promises to be interesting, enlightening, and of course, educative. This is brought to you under the auspices of the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, led, as you know, by our indefatigable Minister, Honorable Minister Babatunde Raji Fashola. So sit back and enjoy this.
The Habitat 3 Africa Regional Meeting in Abuja, Nigeria, was an opportunity for regional stakeholders to meet, discuss, and identify priorities for sustainable urban development in the coming decades. The meeting gathered a wide range of participants and resulted in the Abuja Declaration, which highlights the voices of Africa in ongoing Habitat 3 process. As with all Habitat 3 thematic and regional meetings, the declaration resulting from the regional meeting will be considered official inputs to the Habitat 3 process and will ultimately support the final outcome of the Habitat 3 conference, that is, the new urban agenda to be held in Quito, Ecuador in October 2016. Participants were the representatives of national government, local and regional authorities, intergovernmental organizations, United Nations agencies, professionals and academia, private sector, civil society organizations, women, children, and youth.
This conference provides a valuable opportunity to focus on recognizing cities as an engine of economic growth and as a tool of economic development, and come up with a concise, focused, forward-looking, and action-oriented outcome document. Here we are focusing on the challenges, opportunities, and responses for a brighter and prosperous Africa. This would then merge with a global call from Quito.
Experts are of the opinion that sustainable urbanization for Africa encompasses a holistic and integrated concept of human settlements in a continuum which reinforces economic, social, and environmental linkages across metropolis, cities, and medium-sized towns to villages where most of the continent's population still reside, requiring a multispectral approach which strengthens partnerships at all levels. Mr. Babatunde Fashola, SAN, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Federal Republic of Nigeria, excellently chaired the eventful Habitat 3 Africa Regional Meeting with the theme, African Priorities on New Urban Agenda.
One consideration that I will very strongly urge upon this gathering, if we must deal with urbanization decisively and sustainably, is a resolution to slow it down. But it is not a slowdown by proclamation. It is a slowdown by sensible choices that creates opportunities where there once was desperation. There are universal minimum standards for things like road traffic, healthcare, and so on and so forth. And we should embrace those minimum standards. But clearly there are no maximum standards. And therefore, Africa can reach for as much of those universally accepted standards as we choose. And I think that Africa must reach for the best that the world has to offer. Our president has left no one in doubt about this government's commitment to agriculture, not only to diversify our economy, but to take the real economy to those who have struggled on the margins of our society and therefore headed for the urban centers. One of the key solutions to creating sustainable cities and urban areas is that we need to see agriculture differently from the way that we have approached it. We need to see it as a tool for sustainable urbanization, essentials for cities and for towns to evolve properly. After all, it is the people in the rural area that will produce the food that people in the city will eat. Rural areas therefore need to be supported. Our farmers need to be encouraged and supported to stay and grow food, employ local people, and provide food security for all. The best investment in public schools, including public health, education, and infrastructure, has traditionally been around the cities and in the big towns. Can we have a rethink about this? Can we swing this around? Yes, a focus on agriculture can have a direct impact on the flow of people into our cities, which are already buckling under the strain of ever-squeezed infrastructure. But before I conclude now, let me dwell a little on the word safe, which appears in Sustainable Development Goal 11, which calls for all of us to work to, quote, make our cities inclusive, safe, reliant, and sustainable. I do so with regard to the related issues of inclusion and of gender. There's an inherent narrative that we have not just in Africa, but almost world over, which infers that women need to be protected because they are weak and vulnerable. I think this does a disservice to half of our population because women are strong. It is not women who are inherently vulnerable or weak. It is unsafe environments that breed vulnerability, not just for women and children, indeed, but for all of us. So we need to work towards creating environments that are safe, where opportunities exist for everybody. In closing, I would like to finally call on all of us as Africans to use the opportunity to work more closely together. African cities are our cities, so it's up to us to lead the way in defining the future for them.
The Abuja Declaration strongly noted that emerging challenge of forced urbanization due to, among others, conflicts, terrorism and natural disasters has forced populations to move en masse from rural areas to urban centers and vice versa, and across borders, stretching existing infrastructure, resulting in increased insecurity and poverty. This needs to be addressed in a comprehensive manner. It said that African continent would mobilize financial resources to enhance multi-stakeholders engagement for the effective implementation of the new urban agenda for cities and human settlements in Africa. Here is the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, GCON.
Africa must tackle these issues and advance a positive narrative for urbanization as a force for our continued development, especially within the framework of the UN Sustainable Development Goals and the African Union Agenda 2063. In other words, we must respond to the issues of urbanization in a coherent and coordinated manner, as was done with respect to the Common African Position on post-2015 Development Agenda. We must put the days when Africa would approach the world with discordant voices and come out a weaker for it far behind us. This is why the Nigerian government welcomes the Common African Position on Habitat 3 that takes account of our joint efforts over the last decade and which will inform the debate at this preparatory conference. To sum up, Africa must change the story of its cities and urban settlements from one of chaos, informality, and squalor into a positive one of planning, tranquility, and environmental sustainability.
The Abuja declarations were guided by the African Agenda 2063 as a strategic framework for ensuring inclusive socio-economic transformation, and in this regard recalled importance it attaches to urbanization as a driver of structural transformation. The remarkable growth in African cities presents a unique opportunity to take strides in developing urban innovations towards more sustainable, equitable, healthier, and inclusive urban centers. Through interactive discussions and presentations, the Habitat 3 Africa Regional Meeting provided a platform where African cities and diverse stakeholders could share and reimagine approaches to regional urbanization, to strengthen positive transitions, and to improve existing conditions. It gathered recommendations reflecting the consensus reached at the regional level on a spectrum of topics.
Good urbanization will be one of the most significant economic and social transformations that will change the way of the life of millions of people. And Africa is going to take the lead in the rate of urbanization. The rate of urbanization has been led in quite a number of decades by Asia, and now this condition is moving to Africa, where the most rapid rate of urbanization now is taking place. What is at stake then here in Abuja and later in Quito is the well-being of millions of Africans that are going to go through this transition of urbanization.
Taking advantage of urban corridors at the regional level for related infrastructural and other initiatives, cross-regional interaction and movement of people was also highlighted, orienting regional and inter-regional infrastructure, facilities, and initiatives to promote cross-boundary interaction and investment. Furthermore, enhancing people-centered urban and human settlements through accommodating cultural differences, promoting localized systems of sustainable urban development, and increased attention for the preservation of cultural heritage is a part of the declaration. Dr. Aisa Kasiara is a deputy director at the UN Habitat. She was very emphatic on that.
I want to emphasize the fact that we are very lucky that urbanization and human settlements is the first theme to be discussed after the Sustainable Development Goals and after the issues of climate change. So when we come to Habitat 3 again, we are looking forward to your advice and guidance as member states on how you want us to implement it. What you're doing here with your common voice, as we had since we started, is really to assure us that you're going to make it a priority. With reference to the question that was raised by the Minister, Deputy Minister South Africa, on financing, I think it comes at two levels. It was captured in the Financing for Sustainable Development in Addis, in the sense that regarding sustainable urbanization and human settlements, it's actually an investment because you already have got the potential to raise resources at local and national level that has not been tapped into very well. But we do believe that, as Prof. you said, since it's a very capital-intensive issue, we need to reach out to international investors. We've been talking so much about our culture, but if we want to make urbanization sustainable, we had better make it an investment destination. If I'm an investor and I have money and I want to invest, am I going to come to you because you have a very good culture? I think I'll come to you because you're attractive to me. And I think that level of attraction comes with a sense of flexibility. So I think we have a lot to learn from the international colleagues, because people are moving beyond our borders, and it's important that Africa takes its final stage. Many people are moving to Africa to invest, but as leaders of Africa, are we in charge? That's a question I'll leave with you as an African woman.
The contribution of urban and human settlements development to continental integration by enhancing the urban dimension of existing sub-regional initiatives and investments was also discussed. positioning urbanization and human settlement as a driver of competitiveness through specialization and connected urban systems at the regional level, namely infrastructure, economy, and institutions. Again, developing sustainable cities with improved urban systems for improved functionality efficiency, including energy and resource efficiency and effective delivery of urban basic services and infrastructure were in focus. Professor Banji Oyeyinka is the director at the Regional Office for Africa, UN Habitat. He was also a resource person at the Habitat 3 Africa meeting.
What we want to achieve is to have faster economic growth rates, so that as we have more people in cities, as we have more people both in urban and rural areas, we have differential in terms of economic growth so we can overcome the poverty gap. We haven't seen the same kind of dynamism of economic growth that we see, for instance, in East Asia earlier on. Whereas also in our region, we have lower per capita incomes and lower economic growth rates. This is why we have a deepening of the economic inequality. Not just economic inequality, but also a deepening living standard reduction. This is why, for instance, we have high deficits of affordable housing. According to several estimates, Africa has a deficit of affordable housing of about 4 million per year, and it's growing. And we need to begin to think very carefully how we are going to deal with this deficit. You can actually estimate the same thing for roads, for power, for water, for sanitation. As long as population growth rates overtaking economic growth rate, we will continue to have high levels of inequality because the rich can afford it, while the poor are unable to afford to deal with the deficit. Now, another set of issues arising from the differential in population and urban growth rate and economic growth rate is that they are not being accompanied by job creation and the redistribution of health, of wealth. We also have weak regional integration among ourselves because urban corridors are not being connected in Africa. We need to think carefully about it as we go forward. And then, because of the informal nature of the growth of urban areas, we continually have very negative informal settlements, which we define as slums.
While there are various benefits and opportunities associated with rapid urbanization, general or regional specific challenges also need to be identified and addressed. Changing demographics, limited urban industries, infrastructure needs, environmental degradation, and climate change are some of the main areas that require solutions for a sustainable urban future in Africa. Dr. Aisha Abdullahi is the Executive Director, Political Affairs, African Union Commission.
The challenges we face are unique, and the solutions must also be unique. We must collaborate to identify common challenges facing Africa and the necessary elements of an effective and sustainable urbanization policy and promote our collective goals through the Common African Position on Habitat 3. We must ensure that the African experience concerns and also influence the outcome of the conference and the new urban agenda. Habitat 3, Your Excellency, is a critical step towards ensuring a coordinated, effective global response to the challenges of urbanization, urban development, and urban settlements. African states have united to work towards the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the international arena. These efforts are the first step towards realizing this vision.
Experts observed that strengthened institutions and systems for promoting transformative change in human settlements by means of enhancing capacities for rural and urban planning, governance and management, underpinned by sound data collection and use, promoting effective decentralized urban management by empowering cities and local governments technically and financially to deliver adequate shelter and sustainable human settlements, as well as strengthening and harmonizing urban legislation and regulation to promote and facilitate planned urbanization are the major components of the expected actions. Professor Adeneke Oduwaye is from the Department of Regional Planning, University of Lagos, Nigeria.
Now, let's start from the issue of really tidying up our cities. The informal sector is a traditional African phenomenon by nature of our economy. Likely, our economy is still rudimentary. The economic base is weak. We need to have many hands working directly. And that is the informal sector of our economy that can produce that. And what it means is that we really have to find a way to assemble the informal sector and make them formal, because we have a lot of activities going on in that sector. And if this could be assembled in such a way that it can key into the economy of African cities, I'm very sure most of our cities will look different over time.
Africa is urbanizing at a high pace, and cities are becoming the locus of majority of African people. Whether we like it or not, the future of this continent will be more and more linked to the way cities will be governed and managed, the way they will be inclusive or discriminatory, the way they will safeguard or destroy African values and cultures, the extent to which they will create economic activities and jobs for, especially for the youth, and the way they will be promoting equality, especially for the women. The way they will choose to contribute to Africa's sustainable development, integration, and unity, or work and develop in isolation within national boundaries. The challenge ahead is huge, since within the coming 30 years, Africa will have to house in cities the equivalent of nowadays population of the continent, amounting to over 1 billion people.
The acting managing director, chief executive, FMBN, said that Nigeria, having hosted the Habitat 3 Africa, will be better for it.
On a wider scale, in terms of the quality of organization, the resource persons, in terms of the quality of papers presented, the level of discourse,
exactly.
It's quite high and very informative. It's exceptionally informative in the sense that there are issues that have been brought to the front burner that years back were not issues that would dominate a discourse like this. I mean, I remember somebody talking about building houses for the poor as being no longer fashionable, that normally you develop smart cities, you develop new cities where everybody lives together. And the old minister in his days as the governor of Lagos State had actually started that model, where the rich and the poor, not so poor,
maybe
everybody lives together with common playground for the children, etc. And then they grow up under that environment. So in Federal Mortgage Bank, that is going to shape the way we are going to come up with the design of a new housing model.
The government and people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria have been loudly applauded for convening and hosting this African Regional Preparatory Meeting on the United Nations Conference on Housing and Sustainable Urban Development, Habitat 3.
Well, viewers, I'm afraid this is where we call it a day on your program Towards a Greater Nigeria, because time is not in our favor. And I hope you've enjoyed every bit of the proceedings as we just shown you the recap of the Africa Regional Conference, Habitat 3, held under the auspices of our indefatigable Honorable Minister, Babatunde Raji Fashola. And don't forget, the next outing where you will see all the opinion leaders, government functionaries, private sector operators in relation to urbanization and the housing sector is at Serabaya and then Quito very soon as the year runs by. I guess that of Quito is sometime towards the end of the year. I'll be there and I hope I'll see you there. God bless you. Good night.